Have you ever found yourself giving your best to everyone around you? And yet, when you were the one in need, the world seemed silent? This is the story of a man who brought joy to everyone he met, until one day, he realized he had forgotten how to smile himself. And when life forced him to stop, he discovered a truth that changed everything. In a quiet town surrounded by golden hills and whispering rivers lived a man named Rafiq. He was known by everyone, not because he was rich, but because he had a gift. Rafiq could make people smile. If a child cried, he made them laugh. If a neighbor was angry, he listened until their hearts softened. If someone was sick, he brought food, medicine, and a kind word. People said, "Rafiq's presence feels like sunshine after rain." But nobody noticed that behind his warm smile was a heart that never rested. Every morning, before the sun rose, Rafiq swept the front of the community hall. He helped the baker knead dough. He delivered letters for the old postman who could no longer walk far. He was always moving, always serving. But at night, when everyone's lights went out, Rafiq sat in his small room, silent. No laughter, no warmth, only the sound of his tired breath. He had no one to talk to, no one who asked, "Rafiq, how are you really?" Still, he whispered to himself, "Tomorrow will be better," and went to bed with an empty stomach and a heavy heart. One stormy evening, lightning split the sky, and rain poured like never before. A family nearby called for help. Their roof had collapsed. Without a second thought, Rafiq grabbed his tools and ran through the storm. The rain soaked his clothes. The wind cut through his skin. But he climbed onto that broken roof, hammering away while thunder roared above him. Hours later, the roof stood firm again. Everyone cheered, calling him a hero. But Rafiq could barely stand. His hands shook, his vision blurred. And before anyone could thank him again, he collapsed on the wet ground. When Rafiq opened his eyes, he was lying on his bed. Days had passed. His body ached, and he could barely move. Outside, he heard laughter, the same laughter he once created. He waited for someone to knock on his door. A friend, a neighbor, anyone. But no one came. They all assumed Rafiq was fine, just busy helping someone else, as always. He stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of his own silence. For the first time, he realized he had built a world full of smiles, but none of them belonged to him. Days later, an old traveler knocked on Rafiq's door. He carried a walking stick and wore a cloak faded by time. "Son," he said gently, "you look like someone who gives too much." Rafiq tried to smile, but tears filled his eyes. "I've spent my whole life making others happy," he whispered. "But now, I can't even remember the last time I felt peace." The traveler nodded. He sat beside Rafiq and said, "My child, even the sun must rest at night. If it never sets, the world would burn." Rafiq looked at him quietly as the traveler continued, "You have shared your light for so long that you've forgotten. You are also allowed to receive warmth." Those words echoed in Rafiq's heart. It felt like someone had opened a window after years of darkness. The next morning, Rafiq decided to do something he had never done before. Nothing. He sat by his window, watching the rain wash the streets clean. He brewed tea for himself, not for others. He rested. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to breathe. When the villagers came asking for help, Rafiq smiled and said, "Today, I'm taking care of my own soul." At first, people were surprised. Some whispered, "He's changed." But as days passed, they noticed something different. Rafiq's laughter returned. His steps felt lighter. His face glowed with peace. And slowly, the village began to change too. People started checking on each other, not just to take, but to give. They began to rest when tired, to smile for themselves, not just for others. Weeks later, Rafiq met the traveler again near the river. The old man smiled and said, "You look brighter, my friend." Rafiq replied softly, "I finally understood. Caring for myself doesn't mean I've stopped caring for others. It means my heart is full enough to love them better." The traveler chuckled and said, "Then your smile has finally come home." As the sun sank behind the hills, Rafiq sat on a rock by the water, watching the ripples dance in gold. He closed his eyes and whispered, "You can't heal the world if you're breaking inside. You can't bring joy if your soul has forgotten rest." He smiled, not the smile he wore for others, but one that came from peace within. Remember this: you deserve the same love you give so freely. You deserve the same patience, kindness, and care you offer everyone else. Refill your cup, heal your heart, because when you learn to love yourself, your light shines twice as bright, for you and for the world. If this story touched your heart, like the video, share it with someone who gives too much, and subscribe to Dawn Reflections, where every story helps you grow.